Hello, Herlighters. It is your host, Erin Foley, back in the booth talking women's sports. Very excited to be here. There is so much going on in the world of women's sports. Now it's a problem of what to cover, when to cover, how can I tackle it all, which is a welcome problem. I mean, the more the merrier. So it's just me in the booth today, just me talking sports to you. So today, here's what's going to happen. Last Thursday night, I went to see a fantastic soccer match, Angel City versus San Diego Wave. We are rivals, so I'm going to talk you through that game. A lot of interesting things happened. And then Friday night, I went to see the LA Sparks versus the Indiana Fever. Had some Caitlin Clark magic there. And then I binged, basically the last 2 weekends, I binged NCAA Softball. We've got the Women's College World Series coming up in 2 days. I went on a deep dive, so you're going to hear all about it. So we got a little soccer, a little bit of basketball, and then a deep dive of softball, which I'm super pumped about. If you're listening/watching this on YouTube, I've got my Rachel Garcia shirt on. She's one of my all-time favorite players from UCLA. Now she is a pro. Just a little visual for the, for the podcast listeners. So let's jump right in. Let's do this. Last Thursday, okay, so I go to the soccer match, Angel City. As most listeners know, I have season tickets to Angel City. I live in Los Angeles. And they are really kind of building out this rivalry for the last 3 years, the San Diego Wave against Angel City. So I'm going to tell you some highlights, and then I'm going to get to the crux of the story. I think that's an expression. Let's just roll with it. I have not had enough coffee, and I barely slept last night for reasons I can't even explain. So if I mess up words or just sound, I don't know, slightly incoherent at times, let's just push through. I know they're building up this rivalry, but I don't hate San Diego. I think that's sort of the problem. I like the city. I like their players. I'm trying to get more of San Diego Wave sucks. But when you're looking at a field, right, and you're looking at Jaden Shaw, Alex Morgan, Naomi Gurma, Sheridan in goal, I really actually like this team. So it's hard for me to get through this LA San Diego rivalry, but I'm trying to get myself on board with this rivalry. But honestly, I was just really excited to see basically the Wave play. Here's a real fun shout out to the Wave. A good friend of mine, Carrie, is a season ticket holder for the Wave. They paid for 2 busloads of San Diego Wave fans to come to LA to support their team, which I thought was super cool. They sat up in the corner of the stadium, really not a bad seat in BMO Stadium, as I think they can attest to. So I thought that was just really cool. Did I want to win? Absolutely. So let's get to a couple things before we get to the meat of the story. Very excited to see Alex Morgan back. We've got 2 national team games coming up. We've got the Olympics mere months away. So to see her back and healthy on the field, she played for the last, maybe I'd say 20 minutes, was great. Lots of fun action. Here's what didn't happen. Nobody scored. It was a 0-0 tie, which I found shocking. At some point, I thought the Wave could have been up 5-0. They had so many shots on goal. They were just kind of ball possession. They were kind of dominating most of the game. I was just really proud of Angel City because we had no Sarah Gordon, which is, I think, I don't even think you can argue. She is one of the best defenders in the NWSL. And the fact that she hasn't had a call up to the national team is insane to me. But so she's out with an ankle injury. And, just true to Angel City, we cannot score. I was just surprised that given Gordon is out, we have a whole bunch of new players. We just, we're constantly tweaking the lineup, that San Diego didn't win the game. But let's get to this. Player of the game, Didi Herachik, our amazing goalie for Angel City, just crazy saves. I mean, just leaping ball hits the crossbar, gets back up, deflects a header from Alex Morgan in the last 10 seconds of the game. Lots of action around the goal, but no goals. So here's what I want to talk about. I feel like there should be a new rule, I guess. if you go to a soccer match, here's the whole point of this. Is there any more of a buzzkill in professional sports where you go to a soccer match and the final score is 0-0? I don't know if it is so like demoralizing as a fan. I'm sure it's absolutely demoralizing as a player. But a 0-0 outcome is just like, like I live in LA, there's a lot of traffic. It takes me about an hour to get there. You get in and you sit down and the food is crappy. I think I had a veggie burger and a beer. I think they give me real meat. I couldn't even function the next day. That's another story. And of course, these players are running 5, 10, 15, I don't know, 80 miles during the game. And I'm sitting there having a beer and a burger. But it is such a letdown as a fan to go to a game and just 0-0. So here's my pitch. Here's my idea. If the game is 0-0, not 1-1, not 2-2, it has to be 0-0. If this happens, then I think what they should do is throw an extra, I'm just going to say 20 minutes. You put just 20 minutes, just 10 minutes, and then they switch the sides of the field, but you pull the goalies, right? You pull the goalies. So there are no goalies. And then it's whoever scores the most wins the game, right? You are going to see fun action. You are going to see goals. You might even see a goal from, I don't know, midfield. It's going to get really exciting really quickly. There'll be like really dynamic plays from the defense because they can't, I don't know, they have to be the center back and the midfield, and all of them actually have to be goalies at some point in time. They can't use their hands. I'm just saying, no goalies. I think that would just be so much fun for fans, for players. I haven't worked out the scoring. Maybe they just get 1 point if they win. I don't know. Just spitballing here. Send me an email, Erin@herlights.com. Let me know if you're digging this new idea. I think it just would make things a lot more interesting and more exciting for everybody, for coaches, for players. The 0-0, it's just just a buzzkill, just an absolute buzzkill. So that's my pitch for a 0-0 draw in soccer matches. So the NWSL right now is on a 2-week break. We've got national team games June 1st, June 4th. So I'll be reporting on those. Very excited. It's the start of the Emma Hayes regime, a new coach, new energy. I am very excited to see what's going to happen. I'm the hugest fan of her. She's obviously just been a phenomenal coach in England, coaching Chelsea. So look for those games, and we'll do a podcast, not next week, but the week after, just on those games and just in soccer in general. So NWSL off for a couple weeks, and then it'll give everybody a couple weeks to really think about the idea of pulling the goalies if it's a 0-0 tie. I think it's genius. Okay, moving along. We're going to talk a WNBA game, and then we're going to get into softball. I am so glad I went to this game. Now, I've been going to Sparks games for probably 15 years now, and the atmosphere on Friday night was unbelievable. Now, I expected a lot of people. Right? People were coming out of the woodwork. Let me back this up for a second. I didn't think I was going to be in town on Friday night. So at the last minute, I was like, all right, well, let me look for a ticket. And the seats that I usually sit in were like $250. I'm like, I'm not paying $250. I'm not. If it was like the finals or something, absolutely. Because I should also add this in. I am a ticket snob. It is the one thing in my life where I will throw money at. Money maybe necessarily could be argued that I don't have to spend to make sure I have really good seats at all sporting events. Not even concerts, whatever. But sporting events, I need to be in the best seats I can possibly be in. So I was like, okay, well, I'll miss this game, whatever. It's fine. Then a buddy of mine called. She's like, listen, a friend of mine bought like 50 seats. There's an extra ticket. It's like $45. And I was like, all right, I'll go. I didn't think it was going to be a good seat, but like whatever. So let me describe what happened before we get into some other juicy details. I go to sporting events at least an hour ahead of time. I need to get there. I need to find my seat. I need to focus. I need to think about the game. Could it be argued that I take things too seriously? Maybe, not sure. But if I'm concentrating and I'm into it, usually that helps my team win. And that's just science. So I get to Staples Center. I know it's called crypto. I refuse to call it that. I go to Staples Center. Game starts at 7. And I know people are going to come out of the woodwork for this game. So I'm going to go real early. So I get into the arena probably at 6. And I get in there and I'm not even looking at my ticket. So then I look at my ticket and I'm in the 300 section. Now, for most Sparks games, I'd say we average anywhere between, let's say, 8 and 10,000, right? Not the highest in the league, but it's about half of what Staples Center holds. Okay. So I'm not normally even used to the 300 section being open. That is the top tier of Staples. So then I look at my ticket and it's like section like 332. I was like, oh my God. So I go all the way up to the top. I am talking my ticket. My seat is probably 5 or 6 rows from the very top of the stadium. I'm there an hour early. Nobody's around me. I get some nachos, which consists of just Tostitos chips and I would say a day glow Chernobyl adjacent color of Cheese Whiz. And so I'm eating my little nachos, having a Coke. And I feel like if I get up pretty quickly, I'm just going to fall over. I will fall to my death. I had almost like immediate vertigo. I've never been so high in a stadium in my entire life. Basically, the entire game I spent watching the game, like looking down at the Jumbotron. I don't know if people can even understand what I'm talking about. I was literally at such a crazy angle where I almost felt nauseous, seasick. I don't know what the word is, but it was nuts. But then all right, so then people start filling in. At the same time people start filling into the stadium, my phone is just like blown up. Hey, are you there? Are you there? And I realized it's like every lesbian in Los Angeles. It's like a Bridgerton coming out festival. It's just everyone I think I'd ever met was at the game. So I'm in nosebleeds. It starts filling up and then it starts filling up. And I'm like, oh my God, like there was not a seat open in that stadium. And it was honestly kind of cool in a way to be up that high. I will never do it again. But for that event, because you could see the entire stadium and it was buzzing. I mean, the amount of energy in that stadium was crazy. So here's a stat. We're going to mix the story in with stats. 19,103. That was a record attendance, broke the largest home record in franchise history of the Sparks. It was also the most well-attended. It outdid, outperformed. More people were at the Sparks game, Indiana Fever game, than any Lakers home game this past season. That to me is just nuts. Now, obviously, probably on the whole, Lakers have maybe, obviously have more per game, but I'm just saying at the height of the Lakers home games this season, they didn't have as many people that were in Staples Center on Friday night. That was just mind-blowing to me. Let's talk about the atmosphere. Absolutely electric. Indiana Fever hits the floor for warm-ups. People are screaming. Sparks come out of the tunnel. People are screaming. And throughout the game, and I'll go back and forth between fan experience and what's on the court, but throughout the game, I realized, is it Indiana Fever? I mean, anytime Clark had the ball in her hands, people went nuts, right? So I was kind of expecting that. I don't think what I was expecting was how many people seemed to be cheering for the Fever. I don't think these are actual Fever fans before Caitlin Clark joined the Fever, because I've been at Indiana Fever Sparks games, and there weren't a lot of Fever fans. So it just seemed like there was also, it was like Fleet Week. There was all these sailors in the crowd wearing Indiana Fever jerseys. I mean, it was nuts. Now, let me back this up and say this. Very, very excited to be in that stadium. But at the end of the day, it is Los Angeles. We are Sparks fans. And I couldn't believe how many people were cheering against the Sparks. I think it was like 50-50. Honest to God, maybe 60-40 Sparks. And as the game went on, I was like, well, surely the cheering for Clark and the Fever is going to, diminish as the game goes on. It did not. It did not. It might have picked up. It was that insane. I honestly never experienced like that in my entire life. Here's two other comparable moments at Staples Center. We'll start with this. The other record-breaking crowd was 19,076. It's just a little shy of what happened on Friday night. And that was a playoff game against the Lynx. I think it was 2018. I was there at that game, and I had brought a couple people that had never been to a Sparks game, and that was a huge playoff game. That was the big rivalry when Sparks, those epic Lynx, Lindsay Whalen and Maya Moore and Sylvia Fowles, those epic Lynx games, and we had Parker and we had NECA, just epic battles. And they were blown away by the atmosphere. And I was blown away by the atmosphere because I'm usually, bigger games are 10, 11, 12,000, not 19. So it had a comparable feel to that. But again, in that game, everybody and their brother was cheering for the Sparks because it was an LA home game. Okay, so my mind is kind of blown. The other one I wanted to note was the first game of the WNBA season last year was Phoenix Mercury LA Sparks. I was at the game, and it was Griner's first game back, literally out of a Russian freaking prison. So the place was electric. Again, maybe I'd say 10, 11,000, right? Still probably about half, but more, maybe a little bit more so than a regular, season Sparks game. But the atmosphere was electric. Kamala Harris was there. I mean, the whole thing, it was so awesome. Tons of celebrities. And every time Griner had the ball, the place went nuts until about the second quarter, maybe halftime. Certainly in the second half, we were all like cheering for Griner in the first half, but then we were like, okay, now no more cheering. This is a regular season game. So that's the difference. On Friday's game, I was just waiting for everybody to now go, okay, Caitlin Clark, great, fantastic. Now let's start cheering for our Sparks. Didn't happen. It literally did not happen. Okay, let's get a little nerdier. Now, this is just me as a fan. When I watch basketball games, I don't want to be talking to anyone, any sporting event. I don't like a lot of chatter. I don't like a lot of hey, what have you been up to? I don't need it, right? I'll talk to you before the game. I'll talk to you after the game, but I need to be concentrating. So, but I was with, again, really fun group of people. But in the third quarter, a friend of mine's like, hey, my friend has a suite. Do you guys want to come to the suite? And I was like, I'm going to say yes to that because we were literally, I felt like, again, I had vertigo. So I had to I used the railing like I was 80 going down the stairs. It was insane. So I'm using the railing like an old lady because I think I'm going to die and just fall to my death on the Jumbotron. And we go into the suite. Now, this is late third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter. The game is super competitive. The Sparks were out to a 10, 12-point lead. Indiana chips away in the third quarter. So this is kind of becoming a nail biter. Now, mind you, Caitlin Clark during the game was not scoring. I think she had maybe 6 points or something, but she was still having a really good game. At the end, her stat line was 11 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. She was always doing something. She was super active. Her passing was great. And, a lot of those Indiana players, Kelsey Mitchell, Smith, everyone's just really competing. So we're getting down to the wire here, and everybody in the suite, well, not everybody, I would say half the people in the suite. In the suite, there's probably maybe 20, 25 people hammered. A couple women just screaming defense and then dancing. There's a DJ at LA Sparks events. I think they're maybe fairly common. I don't know. I find them to be so annoying, but there's so much music playing. So I am getting so stressed out about the game, trying to figure out how do I get away from everybody and just concentrating on the game. Then they would play like at a timeout or right before they hit the court, they would play like Poison. Now I love Poison. It's a great song. I don't need to be dancing to Poison while we're down by 3. You know what I mean? So I just realized for me moving forward, I'm just going to sit in my seat, get tickets well in advance and not talk to anyone. But I just thought it was pretty amazing how these people were just like actually having so much fun and dancing. They were dancing. Now I love to dance, but I'm not going to dance when we're losing. Anyway, so that was a moment. So we get down to the end of the game. Now, another thing is Cameron Brink, we got her at number 2 pick. She has completely won me over. And I was a fan when she played at Stanford, but I always thought if I was the GM of the Sparks, I would have picked Cardozo over Cameron Brink. And everyone's going to end up where they're supposed to be. Brink is, very California. Cardoso is going to shine in Chicago when she gets back of her shoulder injury. But Brink just won me over. She has won me over these last 3 or 4 games. Her hustle is commendable. She's on every ball. She's shooting a 3. Her stat line at the end, 15 points, 9 rebounds. Rickea Jackson, our other rookie, 16 points. Dearica Hamby, we just need to talk about her for a second. She is a mother of 2, just for the record. Another double-double, 18 points, 12 rebounds. Her hustle was unbelievable. Brink and Hamby are going to make such a formidable team. I think the future is bright for LA, but she literally has 2 children, and I struggle to get out of bed in the morning, and just dominated. She's having such a phenomenal season. So the game itself was really fun, a lot of back and forth. Clark has been off the whole game. And what does she do? She puts in 2 3-pointers, deep 3-pointers, one to, I think, tie the game, the other one to go ahead. High fives Jason Sudeikis on the sidelines. And the Fever beat the Sparks. Now they had not won; they were 0-5. So congratulations to them. I just wish it didn't happen on the home court of Los Angeles, while 19,000 people were in attendance. But when I'm telling you, when Clark put in those 2 3-pointers, the place went insane. It felt like we were at an Indiana Fever game, which I don't know if I'll ever see again. I was kind of blown away by the fandom, by the excitement at a home, not at their home court. So it's going to be just kind of interesting to see how long that keeps up. How many people keep coming back for Sparks games. Now, they played Dallas on Sunday, and it was over 10,000. I couldn't make it to that game, but it was over 10,000 for that game. So we're going to be fine. Obviously, attendance is absolutely through the roof for all these games, but I'm just so glad, even in sitting basically on the roof of the stadium watching the game, hoping I didn't die. I'm so glad I went to the game. So I highly recommend, first of all, supporting all your any WNBA team. But I felt like I definitely saw the Caitlin Clark effect. I also felt like I saw the Cameron Brink, Rickea Jackson effect. I feel like these rookies are there's so much energy and excitement in the league right now. But I did not expect that. So that is the end of that. Go watch as much WNBA as possible. Okay, let's get into softball and then the feel-good moment of the week. If you are not a softball fan, this is the time to get your shit together and start watching these games. We've got the Women's College World Series. That kicks off in 2 days. 2 days, people. Starts Thursday, May 30th at 9 a.m. Of course, I will be watching 9 a.m. because my beloved UCLA softball team plays at 9 a.m. Let's back this up. The last 2 weekends, you had regionals and super regionals. The top 8 teams make it to the Women's College World Series. There is a bracket. If you're a bracket person, if you're a March Madness basketball fan, then get into the softball bracket action. Same amount of teams, bracket madness. I wasn't too far off. From the 8 teams that went, I picked 6 correctly, so that's pretty good. The last 8 teams, number 1 team in the country, Texas, plays Stanford. Florida, number 4, plays 5, Oklahoma State. Number 6, UCLA, plays 14, Alabama. Number 2, Oklahoma, plays number 10, Duke. These teams they're all incredible, and it is going to be one hell of a Women's College World Series. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight a couple games over the weekend, and then we'll make some predictions. But I can't stress this enough. These games that I've watched just this past weekend alone, some of the most exciting softball I think I've ever seen. I'm going to highlight one series in particular, and that is the Texas A&M series. Now, Texas is number 1 in the country, and the whole talking point, most of these talking points are, who is going to beat Oklahoma? Now, if you're a softball fan, you'll probably know this. If you're not, I'll break down a little bit for you. The Oklahoma Sooners have won 3 World Series in a row. 3 in a row, and they're going for their 4th. And I think they're going to be extremely hard to beat because Texas looked real shaky over the weekend. Can you imagine? This is a dynasty, an absolute dynasty. I just have to say this. I just have to get this off my chest. If they were a men's team, if this was baseball, they would be reported on like every 20 seconds. Can you imagine? Like, it would be like the Yankees of the 90s. Like, it would be, everyone would be talking about these teams. They have won it 3 years in a row, going for a 4-peat, which has never been done. So that is, a couple of the big storylines are, is Oklahoma going to do 4 in a row? Texas, number 1 overall, can they break through? Or really, can any team break through and beat Oklahoma? So I'm going to talk you through some really fun moments in the Texas A&M series. And then I'm going to give you, we're going to discuss kind of what to watch. But before I do that, I almost forgot, and this is going to be my favorite part. I get really nerdy about the softball, and I've watched a ton, and I've played a ton of softball in my life. And I learned 3 new terms over the weekend. I think one of the greatest things about baseball and softball combined is there are such, like, there's always, I always call them Russian doll sports, because there's always games within games within games, right? And the strategy of the pitching, of the hitting, of where to place players on the field, like, it's just so interesting to me, right? But I've never heard these terms before. UCLA is playing Georgia on Friday night, but UCLA is up 2-0, right? And they're interviewing the coach in between innings. And he's like, we're still in it. We're 1 bloop and a blast away. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I rewound it. We were a bloop and a blast away from this game being tied. So a bloop meaning, just like a bloop hit anywhere, it drops, and then a blast, a home run, then the game would be tied 2-2. A bloop and a blast away. Loved it. Wrote it down immediately. I was like, I'm just going to use that, I don't know, at a bar, some random conversation when someone needs like a team speech, and be like, hey, you're just a bloop and a blast away. So that was super fun for me, and I hope you enjoyed that. UCLA, by the way, there was no bloop or blast. UCLA won both games. They didn't have to go into a third game. It was best 2 out of 3. So they took the Georgia series, but I loved that Georgia coach. Here's my second favorite one. Danielle Laurie, she's a commentator. She's also a Hall of Fame pitcher. She pitched for Washington and went on to the Olympics, and now she's a great commentator. There was a ball up and in. Okay, so in baseball, if you're more familiar with baseball, it would be like what they call like chin music, right? This is why I love these nerdy terms. So it's, up and in, close, where the batter, you're trying to get the batter off of the plate. Perhaps the next pitch comes into the outside corner. It's all strategy, right? She called it a jam job. No, maybe people know this, but I'd never heard a jam job before. Loved it. That was a jam job. And I was like, a what? Anyway, bloop and a blast and a jam job. Loved it. Here's the third one. I'm watching some of the Oklahoma game. Jada Coleman, who plays center field for Oklahoma, climbs over the wall it was one of the most exciting catches of the entire tournament, of the year. We're in the playoffs. She plays center field, climbs over the wall, snags the ball from the other side of the wall, lands back on the field, and it's an out. I strongly encourage you to go check out this web gem. It was an instant web gem. And Beth Mowens, obviously Hall of Fame reporter, she yells out, "Oh, Coleman with the Rob job in center field." I was like, yes, another one. Rob job. I mean, you can use that. You can use that in any walk of life. Rob job. Whenever you feel like you did something good and it didn't work out, that was a Rob job. So we got a bloop and a blast. We got a jam job. And we got a Rob job. I mean, come on. If this isn't inspiring you to watch softball, because there's going to be so many Rob jobs and jam jobs and bloops and blasts in the College World Series, and I'm going to be very excited to see them all. Okay, that's part one. Before we get to Texas A&M, and I'll make this quick because I know this is recounting of games, and if you didn't see it, but there's still fun stories. Maya Brady. Another point I wanted to make. Maya Brady is Tom Brady's niece, and she is our leadoff batter for UCLA. She played in the outfield for the first couple seasons. Now she plays shortstop. She was down to the final 10 for MVPs of the league. She's MVP of the Pac-12 the last 2 years. She's one of the greatest to ever play the game. And she didn't make the top 3, but that actually could be argued because they put pitchers and hitters in the same category, which I could literally go off for another 20 minutes just on how that seems absolutely insane to me. Because if you're talking about, you can't compare pitching and hitting to MVPs of the league. You need an MVP pitcher and you need an MVP hitter. Whatever. So in my mind, she's still up for MVP. So here's the deal. This is what I want. Listen, no pressure, Maya Brady. Concentrate on the Women's College World Series, and then she's going to be going pro soon thereafter. But this is what I want Maya Brady to do. I need her to call her uncle Tom Brady and say, listen, you have a gazillion dollars, deservedly. I had to admit on this podcast years ago that Tom Brady, as much as I can't stand him, is the greatest quarterback of all time. God, it pains me to say that, but I'm just going to say it because he is. He invested in crypto. He has money. And not that crypto worked out, but I'm just saying he has money to throw around because he invested in crypto. I'm going to need Tom Brady. We're in a moment right now of women's sports to either put a ton of money into Athletes Unlimited Softball, wearing the jersey. That is, we have a couple of pro leagues for softball. Athletes Unlimited is the big one, but it's only for like 3-4 weeks at a time, and then they come back and play for another month. It's kind of scattered throughout the summer. And there's another league, but that kind of folds and comes back only with a couple of teams. We're still on this cusp of softball really trying to find its footing. Where you see is like, the WNBA and the NWSL and even the hockey league this year, which was such a success. We need more organization. We need one big pro league for softball that plays spring into summer into fall. And I'm going to need Maya Brady to call her uncle, Mr. Tom Brady, and be like, give me your checkbook. Do people still have checkbooks? I'm going to need him to fund a league. There are so many amazing players. The popularity is there. It's one of the fastest growing sports for the last couple of years in NCAA. That's my wish. So Maya, when you're done playing, sit down, no pressure, and just get your uncle to put a gazillion dollars down, and let's get a bona fide pro softball league. Just another pitch, just another idea, just throwing that out there. Okay, little fun nerd fest stories from UT, Texas A&M. These teams hate each other, okay? Texas is number 1 overall. Texas A&M, the lowest seed, they're number 16. Okay, so we've got a 1 playing a 16. I'm rooting for UT just because they're number one and I want someone to beat Oklahoma. Truly. I don't have a real connection. I guess the other connection is I love doing stand up in Austin, Texas. It's like one of my favorite places to go perform. So I have some love for UT. I have two friends that are like diehard UT softball fans. So I'm all in with UT. By the time this series ended and Texas did win by the skin of their teeth, I became a crazy Texas A&M fan. Their players were so fun to watch, just infectious energy. And they took Texas to the last inning of the third game. Every single game was a one-run ball game. And every single game had so much drama. Texas A&M were up 6-0 going into the sixth inning of the first game. So you're like, well, this is going to be a blowout, unexpected blowout. Then all of a sudden, UT comes back with five runs at the bottom of the seventh. They almost win, but A&M holds them off. So now you're going into game two and you're like, oh my God, the number one team in the country is already down a game. So game two was 9-8 that lasted 9 innings. And there's two moments I want to highlight. It was 8-5 UT going into the last at bat. They put in a pitch hitter with 2 outs. She's a freshman named Maya Perez. Okay. This is a freshman. You're down by 3. What does she do? She hits her first career home run. And they tie it 8-8, and I'm screaming. I'm like, what just happened? What just happened? Like, Texas could lose. Like, they're the number one team in the country, and a freshman for the A&M Aggies just tied the game 8-8, and I'm literally losing my mind. So then UT managed to scrap a run in the ninth. A&M comes back. They have runners on base, but they get out of it. So now it's 1-1, right? You have to win the best 2 out of 3. Here comes Sunday. This game, by the way, also included a 12-minute delay because one of the panels came out of the softball, the wall in center field. You can't even make this up. It popped out and the ump goes over and they're like, they couldn't push the panel back in. Then we get a guy who, I don't know, works in maintenance or something. Meanwhile, it's 95 degrees outside, maybe even 100. You know, Texas even now is so disgusting heat-wise. He comes out, he's got like a rag over his head. He starts pulling garbage out from behind the panel. It was basically a 12-minute garbage delay. There was all this garbage, I guess from fans on the top of the wall, that had to be pulled out from behind the panel. So they had to clear the garbage. I mean, it was just one of these games where just like you think someone's going to win, the other team scores 3 runs, then they come back and score 3 runs. Then there's a 12-minute garbage delay. I mean, just ridiculous, right? So then we go into Sunday and I'm just riveted. I'm like, what is going to happen? Could a number 16 seed possibly beat a number 1 team? And boy, did they come close. This is what I mean about the excitement down to the last absolute pitch. Texas, which had pretty much full command of the game, goes into the last inning up 6-2. So you're like, I was almost not even paying attention at this point. I'm looking at my phone for other scores, and I shouldn't have been, because in the last at bat, again, 2 outs, senior comes to the plate. Texas A&M, Julia Cottrell hits a 3-run home run. Now it is 6-5. And I'm like, they're going to do this again? Can they possibly do this again? I mean, it was every game, every inning, so much excitement. Then they get 2 more people on base, and I was just losing my mind. I almost felt like I was watching UCLA. I was just like, I can't even imagine if Texas A&M was your team or UT was your team, because this is just to get to the World Series, people. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, the level of play and the excitement is top notch. That series alone was just enough to make you a softball fan for life. UT, the crowd on Sunday, 2,236 people. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. One more fun shout out, and then we're going to do some picks. Now, this woman plays for Stanford. Soft's NiJaree Canady. She is up for Player of the Year. I think she takes Player of the Year. This is why I love sports so much. Now, Stanford is playing LSU. I think Stanford's 8, LSU's a 9. This could go either way. But all eyes on NiJaree Canady. I think, hands down, the Player of the Year. I clocked her last year in the playoffs, and I was like, this woman is, I mean, if she's a sophomore, people. She's a sophomore. She was one of the best players in the league last year as a freshman, and now she is the most dominant pitcher in softball. They go into the first game, Stanford LSU. I'm just doing stats. NiJaree Canady, the best pitcher in softball, only lasts 4 innings. They got 10 hits against her, 6 runs. She got removed after 85 pitches in 4 innings, and they lost in a mercy rule like 11-1 in the 5th. And I'm like, what? What is happening? So she just gets absolutely destroyed. She's a sophomore. This is to get her team to the World Series, right? 85 pitches that day. She comes back for the second game. She throws a complete game shutout. 2 hits, 0 runs, 104 pitches, and they win 3-0. Now they go into the third game on Sunday. She pitches another complete game shutout. 3 hits, 0 runs, another 85 pitches, and they win 8-0. I just think the mentality you have to have at this level, you go into that first game and you get just destroyed. You're the best pitcher in the league and you get destroyed. 10 hits against you, 6 runs. You get taken out in the 4th inning. That is demoralizing. And then she comes back with all the pressure of the world on her, the best of the best, and hits 2 complete game shutouts. I mean, unbelievable. And the reason why I'm highlighting these two, well, to me, those were the 2 biggest storylines, was that Texas plays Stanford. And that is going to be incredible because Texas, who's looked so good all year, incredible pitching staff. They have Reese Atwood. She's up for the Player of the Year as well. She's the catcher on Texas. I think she bats like 2nd or 3rd. Phenomenal player. So you've got all these stars of Texas, except they had a really, really tough weekend. And then you've got NiJaree Canady going to pitch against Texas. I mean, I have goosebumps. It's going to be so exciting. So let's do picks. Let's do picks as well. UCLA, I'm picking over Alabama because I absolutely have to, because they're my team, but they're just better than Alabama. But is Alabama on such a high for beating Tennessee that they could be UCLA? God, I hope not, but it could happen. Number 10, Duke plays number 2, Oklahoma. I will never bet against Oklahoma because they always win, unfortunately. I mean, I'm glad they won in the past, but I'm done. So I'm picking Oklahoma in that one. Texas, Stanford. I mean, to me, besides me being a UCLA fan and obsessing over that series, this is a series for me that I am just, I don't know. I honestly don't know who to pick. I don't know who to pick. I don't know. I'm sitting here live doing this podcast and I don't know who to pick. I guess I'm gonna say, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna say Texas looks shaky, and NiJaree just throws the games of her life, and Stanford in an upset beats Texas. I'm calling it. This is why I don't bet, because I could literally talk myself into Texas winning very easily. The other pairing is Oklahoma State against Florida, a 4-5. That is literally anyone's game. I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State because I did not pick them in the Super Regional. I picked Arizona over Oklahoma State. I got caught up in Pac-12, my love affair for Pac-12. I went sentimental. This is why I can never bet on anything. So I'm going to say Oklahoma State over Florida. They have Lexi Kilfoyle, just an incredible pitcher. She's also up for Player of the Year. It's Reese Atwood, NiJaree Canady, and Lexi Kilfoyle. Those are your 3 finalists for Player of the Year. So, and you can see all of them play this weekend in the Women's College World Series. It's going to be amazing. Go watch the softball. Maya Brady, no pressure. Just sit down with your uncle and get him to fund a league. And then Bloop and a blast, jam job, Rob job. Enjoy the World Series. Okay, we've reached that time of the podcast. It is the feel good moment of the week. And I've got a great one. There is obviously this really fun, fantastic trend, I guess you could say, for the last couple years now. Now it's really picking up speed of women owned and run sports bars. You've got Rough and Tumble in Seattle. You've got the Sports Bra. That was the first one in Portland. And now you see a couple popping up. One's going to start in Long Beach. One's going to be in Denver. And one opened up a couple months ago. And I've been following them now since the beginning in Minneapolis. And it's called A Bar of Their Own. Super feel good story. Similar storyline. The owner, Jillian Hiscock, and her friends would go to bars to see women's sporting events they weren't on, and just inspired them inspired her to go out and do this. So the bar opened a couple months ago. Now, in the last week, the Professional Women's Hockey League, which I covered a couple weeks ago, were in the finals. And it's Minneapolis against Boston. Nobody thought these teams were going to be there because they had to beat Montreal and Toronto. Now the series is tied 2-2. And the rubber match for all the goods is tomorrow night. So watch that game. But Billie Jean King is an investor in the PWHL. She helped start the league and fund the league. So what they've been doing in the last week is they have a cardboard cutout of Billie Jean King. And they've been moving her on Instagram. They've been moving her behind the cash register. She's cooking French fries. And they've been saying, like, Billie Jean King, please come in. If you're in town this weekend for, the finals, come to the sports bar. And it was really adorable, right? Because I was just like, oh my God, these Billie Jean cardboard cutouts. It was awesome. I love watching it. Well, what do you know? Billie Jean King went to the sports bar 2 nights ago. They have a big wall where any athlete that comes in signs the wall. She came in and signed the wall. It was so feel good and so amazing that Billie Jean King, pressure is a privilege, one of the greatest quotes ever, she just works so tirelessly on behalf of women's sports, all women's sports. She goes to Minneapolis to watch the hockey game, a league that she is so involved in, and sees that a women's sports bar wants her to come in and like sign the wall and be part of it. And she does. Am I welling up right now? Yes, I am. Such a feel-good moment of the week. Congratulations to Jillian for creating this amazing space for women's sports fans. If you are in Minneapolis, go to A Bar of Their Own, support it. They have like amazing food, craft beers, all the women's sports you can possibly imagine. And congrats to Billie Jean King for going in and just being the coolest woman ever, signing the wall, for helping create the PWHL, which has been a huge success. And that is the episode. Go watch the Women's College World Series. We've got Game 5 hockey tomorrow night. We've got U.S. Women's National Team games coming up. There's so much on the docket, so much to watch, so much to support. Fans, friends, family, have the best week of your life.